Okay, we're live.
All right, this begins the deliberations for the January 21st, 2021 zoning board hearing here. Board members will take action on cases by voting, and we will get started. So we are starting with case number 2, 89 Coleman Terrace. I'll turn it over to the board.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I had case number 1 in my face. Sorry. Okay. So thoughts on Coleman Terrace to expand the expansion of the non-conforming use. Any general thoughts?
I frankly don't have any problems with it.
I feel better once he clarified that they listed that one room as a bedroom, but it didn't have to be a bedroom. That made me feel better, sort of thinking about the number of people who could potentially live there if the owner's not the group of people they think will be the owners. So I'm good too.
Lorraine, Joe, any thoughts? I was fine here, and the standards were acceptable that the applicant presented in their application and in their oral testimony. For me, I think it's going to be, a great upgrade to the property.
I would agree. I think the standards have been met, and I also think it's a great upgrade. So I'm good.
I like the project. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great. I just think it's way too dense. There's potentially 7 people that can live there, and I struggle with it. I think Chris did a great job with the design. When I saw it, it seemed to make sense, but in his testimony, about 7 to 8 people there, and what happens if they sell the property and now all of a sudden you have a lot of density there. I'm struggling with this one.
It's the it's 790 square feet. I think that's between the 2 floors, or is that each? For the addition portion?
I had that in my notes. To ask Chris that, and I forgot. I had the exact same question. If somebody could tell me the dimensions, or I couldn't read the dimensions on these drawings because they're 8.5 by 11s, but
give me a second, I can pull it up.
I think it's per floor. It has to be.
The one on, I don't know what page I'm on. I'm on the second page of the instrument survey. It says new 20 by 20 2-story addition.
Yeah.
Which sort of makes me think it's both.
So it must be both.
Okay, so that would be okay. Thank you, Holly. That helps.
Yeah, because if you look at the floor plan and add it up, so that's right. So it's a little under 400 each floor. And the total square footage of the existing property, as shown in the assessment piece, it's 1488, just for context, based on the assessment sheet.
I still don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Let's run through the standards on this one. So the first one, the benefit to the applicant outweigh any detriments to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood. So the applicant went through obviously what their benefit is based on the adopting the property into the proposed occupant. So what about potential detriments to the welfare of the neighborhood, if any exist?
And I think the only issue that I see with it is the same one that Joe had, which is about density, but I think mine is a little bit more, I wasn't super convinced in looking at it that putting that much space on the back was consistent with what other ones looked like. But I don't know for sure because I didn't go in the backyard. So it was hard, and there's not a lot of space on the right-hand side of the house. to sort of see.
Well, Holly, I did walk up just to the fence area because I said, that, you know, and honestly, there was not another house. I walked around a little bit around the neighborhood that extended back that far, but that doesn't bother me as much as the density of occupants. That's all. And I don't know, maybe I was frustrated because I got stuck behind a garbage truck and I couldn't get behind them and I was trying to get to the place. So I was like,
I walked back to the
I was like, are
driveway.
you kidding me?
Because I thought my
I
concern.
mean, I'm Irish, and if it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck. So,
I thought my initial
but
concern
I was just like, oh,
was the size of it. You know, I said this thing is massive. It is going to be larger than, you know, most of the homes in the neighborhood, and that was really going to be, you know, my concern. But walking to the back and just how the other homes were in the rear and on the side, you know, and how it's pretty secluded. Secluded may be a stretch, but I don't. That didn't bother me as much, you know, until I saw the beware dog sign. Then I saw a light on, so I was like, "Did someone live here?"
Ooh, I don't think
Maybe a
so.
dog to come out and get me.
so
And I didn't want that to happen. But I understand your point in terms of density. You know, it's tough. It's hard because, you know, I think sometimes in some homes that are smaller than this, you still have the density. You know, that's a tough one for me. I definitely understand and hear you, and I don't disagree with you. I just don't know if that battle is, you know, if that battle could be stopped, because you could not add the additional bedrooms and you could still have a ton of people living in these homes. I mean, that one's tough.
yeah, I know. I know.
Where you're coming from.
That's the challenge we always have. We can't project people's lifestyles and what's going to happen in reality. You know.
But
So anyway,
I had a question about he said there were potentially 5 disabled people with disabilities. I didn't really understand that. How are they going to get around? I mean, I guess it's not our concern, but that's a density issue with people who aren't as mobile. I don't know what their disability is though, so I don't know.
Weren't they kids?
Kids? Are they kids?
Yeah,
Were
they're
they
kids.
too?
I thought they were kids.
They're
Are
kids.
they kids? Oh, that's too bad. Yeah. All right, they're kids. Okay.
okay, I missed that, but okay.
That's the way I remember it. Maybe somebody can tell me if I'm right or wrong.
That's what I wrote down.
Kids?
I wrote kids. 5
They're
disabled
children.
children.
Is anybody in a wheelchair? There could be 5 children in a wheelchair. I don't know. Anyhow.
Just to get us back to the points of the
Yeah,
standards. So
I'm all right.
going back to Matt's point, you know, I do think that the benefits of the applicant outweigh. I just think that the upgrades that are going to be made to the property, that it is going to be for, you know, it is going to be owner occupied to an extent. You know, the essential character, the property, the expansion is pretty shit. You can't see it from the street. You really, how those homes are pretty close in that neighborhood that you can't really see in the rear of any of the backyards, and from the other side of the street, because I walk to the back and you just see more homes butted right up to each other. Obviously, there is a remedy. They don't have to expand it.
Well, the question is about, is there a way to somehow meet the code which gives them the same benefit? So if their stated benefit is expanded living space, how else do they achieve expanded living space without going to the zoning board? And the answer may be there isn't one, but.
I don't think there's any physical or environmental detriment. There's no detriment there at all.
Let's talk about the number 4 just before that one. Is the requested variance substantial?
Actually, I don't think it is. The reason why I say that is generally when we look at something like this, we're talking about lot coverage and setbacks and things of that nature. That does not come into play here.
Yeah.
It fits the definition of lot coverage. Otherwise, you would have had it listed on the first page.
And it's better than, according to the applicant, what's there now, which is broken potential old patio with the dead tree.
That's true.
And I go back to what Tyrese said. I mean, they said 5. Who knows if they don't have 5 more in the future? I mean, I don't know. I think I'm okay with this. It is self-created. They all are
You
self-created.
determine if it's self-created, the board can determine that the benefit outweighs the fact that it is in fact a self-created hardship, that the stated benefits that the applicant is seeking offer the, it's still allowed to offer the relief to the applicant.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to grant.
I'll second.
Hold on, I need to get to the right page.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you're good. So we have a motion on the table to grant by Joe, a second by Lorene.
Correct.
And I can go through and poll the members. Jim,
Grant.
Tyrese,
Grant.
Lorene,
Grant.
Joe,
Deny.
and Holly.
Grant.
Okay, the motion does pass 4-1. Keep in mind there are 5 of you here, and we said this in the beginning. They need to have a minimum of 4 votes in order for the application to be approved.
That's why I made the motion.
Case number 3 is 184 Melville Street. This is, the applicant talked a little bit about it. RHA has gone through and has a significant number of building permits in our office, many of which are code compliant and do not require your review, so you are not seeing them. This being a demolition and starting over, it is before you for the side yard setback. So I also wanted to clarify one thing. The applicant put it in the application and it was also mentioned, so I just want to make sure you know what it is. There was mention that they're just off from having it be able to be processed as an administrative adjustment. What that means is there's a list of 10 things within the code, the current zoning code, which are, they're items that don't meet the code, but they're thought to be something that don't rise to the level of actually needing to go for a variance, which includes a public hearing. And one of those items is any deviation from 10% of a numerical value within the code. So if you're within 10% of the 15, you could go for an administrative adjustment, which is a internal approval at the discretion of the manager of zoning with public feedback. So just so you know what that is, it's like a lesser variance.
Because I didn't know what that was.
Right.
Yeah, there's a list of 10 things that don't meet the code, but they don't like necessarily rise to the level of a public hearing, but we still do public notification so people can still submit stuff and then we take that under consideration.
I like it. I think it's cute.
Jim, I think it was Jim, someone brought up a question about the front setback. Yeah, they have to basically meet the both sides, so it'll be adjusted.
Yeah, I like this. I mean, if you run right through the standards, they hit just about every one of them. I mean, the benefits, obviously the existing house is so out of character. The new house is much more in character. The benefits are not only I think they help out the applicant, but they also help out the neighborhood. So I think that's a win-win. No other remedy. You would have to demolish that house to make it ADA compliant and in keeping with what the Rochester Housing Authority properties offer. And I don't think the setbacks in that are significant. So the self-created one, yeah, again, that's irrelevant when it comes down to doing a good project, in my opinion. So I'm going to make a motion to grant based on the standards submitted.
I'll second.
A motion and second. Jim?
Grant.
Tyrese?
Grant.
Lorene?
Grant.
Joe?
Grant.
And Holly?
Grant.
Carries 5-0. Next one is 539 Oxford Street.
Oh, no, I was really glad that Joe came up with that lesser relief. That really bothered me, the 3 bedrooms. It's
Joe,
such
can you walk me through what you described? I wasn't.
Yeah, so if you just go to the floor plan, and it's actually, I wanted to ask you a question too, Matt, based on John Lembeck's comment in his letter. I was
Okay.
going to ask it in the public hearing, but he states that it's illegal to park behind a garage in tandem. I would say only if you're going to block the sidewalk, right?
Correct. So the driveway definition, we don't regulate where you park. The code does not regulate where you park your car. It regulates that you have the ability to get to a legal parking space. So in this
Okay.
case,
That's what I thought.
if you can get to the garage, you can park behind it. No, you can't block the sidewalk. So you have like stacked parking, which is very common in the city in people's driveways. You have to move
Yeah.
cars back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay, so the floor plan.
Okay, so Matt, if you go to the proposed configuration,
Yep,
Yeah.
first floor.
go to the proposed configuration in the front unit.
Yep.
And I put a red, I don't know if you can see that, the red circle around the kitchen. I
Yep,
just
yep.
think that unit should just be a 2-bedroom, and he should probably hire a design professional to come up with a better floor plan.
Yeah.
But that kitchen is like 8 by, I can't even read it, and the Xerox didn't come out. It can't be any more than 8 by 7, is it?
Yeah, so you're saying, maybe a reconfiguration to the floor plan, but not exceeding 2 2-bedroom units.
right.
You got it. That's it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Which mitigates, I think, a little bit of concerns around parking.
Yeah, I think it does the best you can there. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's
And I think, Matt, I had a big concern with parking, so you did a great job explaining that to me, because I was confused. That was one of my big red flags, was how the heck is he meeting parking? But
well, I think you summed it up a little bit too. It's sort of a very long, decades and decades of a use that's just been very low impact, other than when a funeral has happened.
yeah.
So, anything else on Oxford?
That's the first floor of a residential building, and what else is it gonna do with it? The very fact that Joe is submitting the fact you go to 2 bedrooms rather than 3, get another car off the street, that's fine with me.
and I think unless you lived in the neighborhood and had known that what it was for that period of time, which people probably do, but I think it, exterior definitely fits into character, as it already looks like a residential, building already. So
It's going to be a great residential building. It's got
Yeah, it is.
all kinds of cool
you gotta
stuff.
get
at
all,
the
you gotta
nice
come in with
exterior.
your onions and stuff and make sure nothing's going
Oh,
around. But I think it's,
Woohoo.
Stage
I
the
won't be,
place.
I won't be going there, but
Okay, so two 2-bedroom apartments. Okay. Any other items on this? We talked a little bit about the conversion to residential being more in character with the neighborhood. No other remedy. We talked a little bit about this in deliberations. The applicant's caught in a circular motion of what to do with it. So the lesser relief brings it down from what's being proposed to mitigate some of the concerns.
True.
Okay.
And there's absolutely no way you're ever going to make that a commercial space again. It's not going to happen.
Someone want to make a motion?
Joe wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant.
Lesser relief?
I'll make a motion to grant with lesser relief that the applicant proposes 2-bedroom apartments.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Jim,
Grant.
Tyrese,
Grant.
Lorraine,
Grant.
Joe,
Grant?
and Holly.
Grant.
motion for lesser relief carries for 539 Oxford. The next one is 74 Clifton Street. We do need to do seeker on this one. It is an unlisted action before you make a decision. But before we do that, we can open it up and talk a little bit about it first.
I like it. I mean, I get that, you know, people are concerned about what people are going to do in the parking lot, but they're going to do what they're going to do, whether it's parking lot or not. And I think they're less likely to defecate in it if it's an actual parking lot and it looks like it's part of the building. And, you know, I think that that's a better thing for the community to have people who are running into the store to, you know, buy milk or bread or whatever, have somewhere to park and get in and out. So I like it.
I kind of have a problem with this one simply because I think the residents, the neighbors, have very significant input into this simply because they're there and they know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know, because of their concerns and I mean, whatever happened can happen, but I think just them bringing up just the crime and the number of kids and all, I mean, that goes on all the time there. And I think for that to be enhanced for them is a big deal. So I have a little problem with this one.
Matt, the only question I had was about, and I'm fine with it because I think, you know, definitely understand the neighbors' concerns, and I'm glad, I'm really excited that that neighbors from the community chimed in.
Mm-hmm.
Does I would approve this with conditions that a gate be added to the curb cut.
The the Clifton side.
On the Clifton side, yeah, because there's no curb cut on Jefferson.
There's no curb cut on,
which I almost took my Jeep over because it was snowing. I was like, "Oh, is it a curb cut over there?" It wasn't. And these people are looking at me like I'm crazy. I, like,
I almost did the same
because it looked for
thing.
a second.
I almost drove right out that way.
Well, I think part of that is getting, the plan calls to restore the lawn area between the sidewalk.
Yeah, I saw that on the plan, and I guess I just was a little higher, and I thought, oh, the grade goes down, but it was not. So I would add that condition is that it's added there, and that those gates are closed at close of business. Another thing for code enforcement to keep up with. But my big question too was, you know, I do a lot of lighting, and, you know, I don't know the condition of those wall packs that they have out there. If those are LED wall packs, what's the photometric readings? What is the city's, because I guess I don't have a good understanding of this. What does the city require in terms of photometric levels and in terms of light levels in lots like this?
So I'm going to give you a really, really basic answer because I cannot speak to the words that you just described that I won't try to pronounce. So when you design a parking lot, typically the threshold for kicking in more intense improvements is 10 spaces. So once you hit like 10 spaces, you then have to have a certain number of landscaped islands per spaces. Additional drainage for a certain square footage comes up, additional number of planting shrubs, you know, salt tolerant trees and things like that, as well as lighting. Because this is only, I think, 3 spaces total, maybe with the ADA, maybe 4 with the ADA, it doesn't kick into that. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that this board can't say, you know, in connection with an approval with the gate, the lights that were mentioned on the building have to function as part of the parking lot. So it sort of makes that connection.
Well, who's going to make sure that happens?
One of the things we could condition it, whether it'll happen or not, it's called dark sky compliance lighting, which means the light fixtures are designed so that they don't spill out into adjacent properties, which would address the concern of that one gentleman who's on the phone. What's that, Matt?
It's like down lighting. It
yeah,
down.
They call it dark sky, and I think it's, and I'm not a civil engineer, but I think it's only 1 to 2 foot candles per square foot at the ground level. I mean, you could ask the city engineers.
That's about right. I don't even think what he has out there now, they're probably not even there's probably no
Yeah.
spillover right now currently. But I get it.
Yeah, if we could just condition it that somebody from the city look at the lighting so it doesn't, if these guys want to put these wall packs up and these things blast light like for 100 feet. And, the gentleman who was on the phone talking about it, I think he lived next to the property. That would be a concern of mine. I wouldn't want to be looking at these wall packs blasting light all night. So there is a fixture out there. It's called a dark sky compliance fixture. And,
So the applicant is on the call
if you guys
still
want to
listening, which is good because, and I
Yeah.
say that because the applicant is listening, so he's hearing this conversation.
Oh, okay.
about something to.
Okay. Yeah. So I would just tell DDS to make sure that the lighting lights the parking lot for security, but does not spill out into the adjacent properties.
That would work for me too.
Okay, and that it assists with mitigating concerns that were heard from the community, because the community brought forth the concern saying, look, I don't know what the plan is for this, but this will assist with responding to that.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this one? I want to do seeker quick. I know we don't have to do seeker too often. Seeker, as you know, is for making determination for if there is some sort of a large or substantial impact on a project. I'm going to just share my screen real quick and pull this up.
The applicant just submitted a chat that he could speak on this, and just maybe you can just clarify that we can't take any more testimony. Yeah, you probably weren't
Sorry.
looking.
Yeah, to the applicant, no, I wasn't. Thank you, Johanna. No, to the applicant, we cannot, the applicant cannot chime in for deliberations. It's solely between board and staff. Thanks, Johanna. All right, real quick here. So this is, of course, the part 2 of the seeker. I will just leave these on the screen. I don't need to read through them. Give me a second here.
And just, keeping in mind what you learned from Jill last week, that, we're looking at whether there are substantial adverse environmental impacts from this project. And so that in most cases, you're going to probably think there may be some impact, but what you're trying to determine is whether there's a small or minimal impact, or whether there is such a substantial impact that this would require these folks preparing an environmental impact statement. And so just have a look at that, and if you have any questions, and then we will vote on whether there's all of these impacts are small or minimal.
And then what I'll do is I will get this over to Tyrese, who's going to sign it for me and send it back. Any questions?
No,
Okay.
I've gone through the statement, and I agree with the applicant's answers to each of the questions.
Yep. The seeker's fine. The seeker looks good.
Yeah, I'm fine with the seeker too.
All right, very good. So based on the information submitted and all documentation, the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. So that is done, and I'm going to stop sharing, move back to this, and we can continue talking about the parking lot. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, concerns? Do you think that you've addressed the folks that called in, as well as achieving the benefit to the applicant?
Yeah. I think the best we can. I think there's definitely there's going to be some negative impacts that will continue. I think Lorraine kind of mentioned those. People live their day to day, and they know what they see every day. I think this may mitigate it somehow, but it's not going to stop it at all. But it'll continue if we don't do anything. So
If it stays a mud pit?
if
I
it stays
agree.
a muddy mess.
I agree.
Unless you
I-
talk about removing the curb cut and putting up those, things that the blockers you guys put up in vacant lots,
The bollards.
the bollards, yeah. But then
The
the guy
bollards.
can't get his garbage out of there, so you can't remove the curb.
No, those are
I-
good points, Terry.
Teresa, I think the neighbors are going to be pleasantly surprised at how much it actually improves the situation there. Because when I was there, the traffic was like a madhouse. There was
Yeah,
cars everywhere.
I don't think it will. I don't think it will. I mean, you can go on, the Sunoco on West Main or the gas station up near the Walgreens on West Main, and it is a lively place at night. I don't think it
Ooh,
will.
that's a big one.
To Lorraine's point, I don't think it will, but I just think it may make it a little better, but it'll continue. I mean, it's unfortunately the culture of the neighborhood.
Well, I put it this way,
We
it
can't
can't make
fix
it worse.
Yeah, it can't. No, you're right. We can't it can't get worse.
Yeah,
Okay.
can't get worse.
So I'll make a motion to grant on condition that a fence is added, a fence or gates are added at the curb cut on the property, not on the street, but on the property, and that those are closed at close of business every day, and that the city. What was the lighting piece that you wanted to add, Joe? I'm sorry, I'm having a
The
brain.
dark sky compliance lighting. And
So
stuff.
the applicant needs to, and Joe, question on that, is it typically, and the answer to this question may be both, but is it typically installed on buildings or light posts in parking lots?
Yeah, that's a question. I don't know.
I do a lot of lighting. Honestly, Joe, never saw
It's-
anything like that on wall packs before. I put
Yeah,
shade. on
I agree.
all the time. I've seen nothing like that on a wall pack before. I mean, because that wall
Yeah.
pack. I mean, but
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I would just say, just make sure that it doesn't spill out into the adjacent
It's light spillover,
neighbors,
right?
whether they have to direct it down more towards the parking. Yeah, I'm not a lighting expert. but
yeah, I mean, they
I
could
gotcha.
get,
I
that's
understand.
always a contention.
they could get
Lighting there now? Is that what you're saying? That there was something installed already?
yeah. There's something there now. So there's something there now. So he said that there's 2 wall packs there
Okay.
now.
And should they be on all night? Is that what, or should if the parking lot's closed, should the lights be off?
I will just say
No.
from my experience, people have
Leave
been
'em on?
very concerned in neighborhoods if the lights go off at night. So
Yeah.
that's from if anybody else,
I would say
I've
leave 'em on.
Okay.
I've seen both sides of it, but like the 19th, they go, they got in a big issue with Walgreens because the lights went off at night and, someone got shot when they were off at night. So there's different sides to that, I think. So I don't, I leave that.
As long as it's not spilling onto the adjacent property,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
better to
That's
keep
all.
them on all the time. Okay.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. All right, so we have those 2 conditions. I'm good. Someone wants to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Lorraine. Jim,
Grant,
Tyrese,
Grant.
Lorraine,
Grant.
Joe,
Great.
and Holly.
Grant,
The motion on condition carries 5-0. That was 74 Clifton Street, and the last case is 197 Driving Park.
Is all I can
Have
say.
fun with this.
Oh, man.
So,
I'll give my, back in October when this came before, and this is probably different from folks. I didn't have an issue with this at all. I think that the applicant showed a significant, the financials made sense in terms that he couldn't make it work, and deconverting this. I mean, this was a 4-family for 50 some odd years, 57 years before it went vacant. I mean, this is within character of the neighborhood. Putting parking aside, because that's not what's on the table here. We got an issue with parking and cars. I'm an urban planner. I hate cars. We don't want cars. But that, I can't really base this decision. This
we have.
this property was a 5-family at one time. Then it was converted in 1972 to a 4-family. I mean, yes, I think Ron went through why this went vacant in 05. And, shame on, that. Shame on that. It shouldn't have went for a period of time. And people obviously in the neighborhood for the past 16 years in February, 16 years have gotten used to no one being there. But prior to that, I mean, this was a 4-family. This is what it was. And I think he did show in his financials, making this guy deconvert this. I just think, I think he has made the standards and has proven his case with showing these revisions, I think, Cora and Matt aren't here, but they were really, in October, they really were on him in terms of, because he was proposing those rent numbers, and he really showed these are the rents that he can get on Dewey and Driving Park, near Dewey and Driving Park. And I would agree with him as well. So that's my perspective. I know folks may be different, but mine hasn't changed since October in this case, and I do appreciate him going back in and providing the additional information. I think the additional information supports granting this application even more so. So that's my perspective, and I'll shut up.
No, Tyrese brought up a really good point, and I just want to bring this up as a point of conversation. You said Cora and Matt, when they were here in October, really drove home the rental rates, which was one of the things that was part of the notice of decision on denial. So the applicant submitted additional information for rents. Some of them are not in the area, they're in different zip codes, but there are some in there. So I just want to make sure you guys are okay with that as a support from, he submitted a couple of sheets in the back. So it compares to his revised Exhibit A for what he says he can get for rent based on the number of bedrooms, which is this sheet here. And then there's rental rates in the back. So
I think
that was one of the big things.
Oh, sorry.
And I think those rental rates, I was fine with them because I think the examples that they do show are within character of the type of neighborhood that this is. So I'm fine with what he, submitted, because I think some of those zip codes he provided are the character of what you're seeing where this home is located.
I think it's more of a detriment to everything considered to leave it vacant for a longer period of time. And he has stepped up to the plate as far as, revising. But we asked him to do. I mean, it's going to be at a greater loss to him and the neighborhood, and if it's vacant longer, simply because it'll get broken in again, things will be taken out again. So I think I agree. I think he should move forward with 4.
Look at those 5 different sheets of rentals. You can cherry pick those if you want. Those are from throughout the city. All over the place. I don't live too far from this property. You may remember in October when we first heard about it, some of us thought that his rental rates were a little bit on the low side. As I look at this large spreadsheet that he has created, I have to be careful how I say this, but it's almost like he wanted the numbers to fit. Nothing fits unless you get to an R4. I understand where he's coming from, but $2,600 profit over a building of that size over 12 months, that's pretty bad. If I was a landlord, that's pretty bad. On the other hand, we have a property that has been vacant for, this will be the 16th year right now. So the question is, he's supposed to prove whether or not he's taking a loss. Well, yeah, if you don't have anybody there, you're certainly taking a loss. But is it taking a loss at a 3 as compared to a 4? Well, in black and white it is, but how accurate are those numbers? Does anybody want to speak about these numbers?
Well, Jim, that's always been my point of contention with a form and a use variance. It's that document that they fill out, the way it's put together, and we've talked for years about trying to revamp that. And we even did it in the training session. I talked about it in a training session, not the one we were at recently, but with the 2034 group. it's almost like you're encouraging people to fudge the numbers to make it work. And everybody is owning property and in business to make a reasonable profit. But the way the use variance financials are is if you don't show a terrible return, you're never going to get your use variance. And I would rather say, no, let's show a good, healthy return so that these landlords are reinvesting into the city, reinvesting into the property. So and Johanna's heard me say that for years, and Matt's heard me say that for years, that I think that whole financial statement needs to be revamped. And until that, it's very difficult to analyze a use variance. And that's just the way I've seen over the last 15 years. It's the numbers sometimes, Roseanne was really good at that. And so was Eric. I remember during the years where they were on the board. And the financials are like, these don't make any sense, but like the rate of return needs to be so low that they're like, well, okay, I guess that you get a use variance then.
That's true, Joe.
What's wrong with making a good profit?
Sometimes people were punished because they had actually paid off the property. So they had no write-off for it.
Yeah.
That wasn't fair.
I was like, what's wrong with the guy making money? And Marcia Berry used to say it back in the day. God forbid you do something great in the city. Somebody's going to come and knock you down, And Johanna probably remember. I don't know if you were the attorney back then when Marcia was the chair or the department head. I'm going way back.
Oh, of course.
But she used to say that. She used to say that, God forbid you do anything good, money in this city. Somebody's.
So to your point, Joe, yeah. So part of that story is the whole, loss of rights is part of the 2003 code. And of course, by saying that you have to show this awful return, otherwise, it's even denied. I guess that depends on who you talk to if person wants the property deconverted. But no, I totally understand what you're saying. I just want to make sure you guys are okay with the financials that were submitted as part of this revision.
And Joe, I hear you. I'm going I gotta go with what you submitted. I hear you. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good exercise for the city zoning office to look at some other cities.
Tyrese, because I've even asked over the years, I was like, why would you invest in this property if you're only going to make 1.5? You're better off putting your money in the bank at 3 points. And they're like, oh, well, I go, because your numbers are fudged, you know? I mean, I just say, so don't put a whole lot of stock in the numbers.
Well, you're right. Who admit, that it isn't,
So what's in front of me tonight? That's what I have to base this.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I
that's what
agree.
Yeah.
I want to, let's do that. And I definitely want to run through the standards. We've touched on most of them. I want to put them out there. So no reasonable return. So is the subject property capable of yielding a reasonable rate of return if used for its present use or developed, redeveloped, or used by any other use? So basically what you're saying, I'm going to just summarize the question. There is no reasonable return unless it's used for this 4-unit, to reactivate it as a 4-unit. Based on
what's in front of me, yes.
The numbers here. Talk to me a little bit about this. So specific to this property with this applicant, there's a long history of vacancy, and the applicant detailed, some setbacks, I think medical and whatnot, previously. So unique circumstance, is the alleged hardship relating to the property unique? What's unique about it? Thoughts on that?
Well, I did listen to Mr. Bramlett. I think he was spot on when he talked about for 15 or 16 years, and there's been some issues out there, but come on, that's what's going on here. I think everybody that's going to be voting tonight wants to see this property get used again. We don't want it to be vacant, but as a 4, as a 3, that's the issue.
My instincts
I'm thinking about a 3 rather than 4, and I realize that there are so many different ways to figure the costs, and how do you reconfigure the building so you can have 3 in there rather than 4. There's a cost no matter what you do.
That's true.
That's,
And how accurate will that cost be? And I still believe that the rents that were proposed, that were marked in October, were low. Most of us thought they were off by about $200 per unit per month for those of us that were there.
I think
Maybe this doesn't pertain to the case, but my concern is that since he's waited this long, he is going to get the approval for 4 families and then it's going to be sold.
I never thought about that.
Me neither.
Just
Joe,
my
let's clean this
instincts.
up and
Just my
make
instincts.
you got to think about that for all of these, for all of them. You got to think about that for all of them.
I don't know. I'm just like, why all of a sudden?
Joe
It might
has
be a-
seen this many times.
There might be a deal on the table that says, if you get it approved for 4, I'll buy it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and for that doesn't change it for me because whomever the owner is, I want to see this, property get, yes, and yes, the applicant is at fault. I think there's a lot of fault to go around, why it's been vacant. I've got a big issue with, I know I guess the city was collecting his fines and fine with them leaving it like it was. So I think there's a lot of blame to go around. And I think there's anybody could sell these properties after they get variance approvals. But to your question, Matt, I am, what standard you were at?
You're absolutely right, Tyrese, because that's why we always ask the question or the statement is, the variance goes with the life of the property. That's, you might be a good guy, you might be making all these promises, but you might sell it too in 6 months to somebody who's not.
Right, so, I think the applicant is stating based on what he submitted, he's not interested in anything other than a 4. I know Jim mentioned exploring 3 or 2. So I think the applicant's saying, I want a 4 and I'm sort of done with that. I was looking at, I guess we were on 4, essential character of the area. The proposed use produce an undesirable change in the character of the area. So the property's on somewhat of a major corridor as opposed to a small scale residential street.
Yeah. And I go back to the point of, I get it's been vacant for 15 years, but it was a 4 family for 57 years.
Yeah.
I think that is in character of what that neighborhood is and what it was. Then I don't know the reasons why it went vacant, and I know it's been vacant now. So I think in terms of character to the community, I think it's more of a yes. People have got used to no one being there. So yeah, it's going to be challenging when people are there, and so you're used to potentially more vehicles, more people, more traffic.
Like Oxford Street, right?
Yeah, whatever that traffic may be. I don't know what it can be. Because it is what it is. It's pretty much it. I don't like saying it is what it is, but I can't pretend what that traffic is going to be, and I can't tell people what they can or cannot do. I'm going back to the point that, and I have an issue with these lost rights ones in general because I don't like how the city does it, but that's nor here. That's not the issue here, but this was the character of this since 1948. I mean, I think this is in line with character, and especially a major corridor like Driving Park is.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with essential character. This is exactly what it is. Go up and down that street, you can see them all over the place. So I don't have a problem with the essential character of the area. I don't like the parking out there where, the guy didn't bring it out, but the 3 spots on an angle, that's actually on a hill. And we talked about that in October, but that's easy to remediate. That's not a problem.
I don't know. 4 bedrooms. It is in character of the house and the area, and I think it's fine. Works for me.
And then so that was any other information for the standards.
Well, so the last one, can the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by a feasible alternative? So if you're making the argument that the numbers are accurate in this revised attached 3, that he can't realize a rate of return for anything less than 4, 3 unless he's in the negatives. Based on what he submitted.
If we grant him this, then we are saying he would have a hardship with anything less.
So Jim, your point was you would support the application if it was deconverted to a three unit?
That's a tough one, but it's a good question, Tyrese. What it is I think you're getting the impression that I don't believe the numbers. I don't believe the numbers are properly. And maybe it would be a 3, and maybe a 4 is the right way to go. But I'm really fuzzy on that.
Yeah.
I really am. So I'm inclined to say lesser relief, but I don't think the others are. And you want to do a straw poll real fast?
Yeah, that'd be.
What benefit do you have from having the lesser relief that you think, Jim?
They're not great, Johanna. I mean, of course, a little bit less parking. But I've been on this board long enough to know that when we do these things, when we do this type of hang on 1 second here. It's very specific that the numbers have to be correct and they have to work. I think that's right in black and white when you read about that. And that's my concern. I think the numbers, I don't want to use the word cooked because that doesn't sound right. I just think they're made to fit. And I think the rental rates are a little bit too low. Maybe a 3 would work. Maybe a 3 will not work. Maybe it's got to be a 4. But I can't trust what I see in the numbers here.
I feel the same way you do, Jim.
Okay, but you see, that's why I asked for a straw poll, because I'm inclined to vote lesser relief.
Can you point out numbers that you think, can you identify something? I know this is hard. I know this is, he's given you this, huge laundry list of alterations that need to be made and costs incurred if he goes from a 4 to a 3 or a 4 to a 2. But I guess I'd ask you, which ones do you think are not realistic or?
I'm just going to say one, Johanna, and that's the rental rates. I think they're too
More the income rather than the expenses?
Exactly. The expenses, I think he's very accurate and did a very good job of identifying.
Yep.
And I'll say 2 things, and that'll be it. I think going back to your point, Joe, in terms of, okay, I want to, and to maybe Jim, I want to show these lower rental rates to show that, hey, this is still tough for me. So maybe, applicants are discouraged through the process to not show that I'm going to make money off of this, so, maybe, from the people he's talked to and from his experience is like, hey, to get this approved, this is how the system works. And then to the other point, I am more inclined to, approve it as a 4 family because, and I say that because this individual has submitted an application and has sworn in an oral testimony that this is accurate information. So that's what I have to go off of. And so that's why I would support it. I would support reestablishing it as a 4 family. And I hear you, Joe. I mean, Jim, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But going on, a sworn testimony, that's what I have to go with.
I want to just say this. So if you're okay with the expenses, but it's more the income, so then even if there's a little bit more income pumped into each of the units, does it bring, if it were a 3 family, does it bring the
return,
income,
yeah.
does it bring it to a reasonable return, or does it still leave it minimal?
How do you like this answer? Yeah.
So then it's not realizing a
I'm bad with it.
No, for me, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
No, that's where I was going with it. If you pump a little more money into the income aspect of it, leaving the expenses listed aside, maybe it brings it
Does that
to a
change it?
break even.
Nah, I mean, Would that change it? No, for me, no. I don't know about everybody else.
But you have to go by the facts. The
That's
facts are what he presented to us, okay? So we don't have any other facts. We don't have any other statements to compare it to that he's put together, done or anything. So factually, that's his statement and that's his information as much as we requested him to give to us. I mean, that's a fact.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you
Yeah.
pump a few $100 extra into the 3 unit where it's coming out as negative 559, it brings it, I don't know, maybe closer to 0 or maybe to 0.
Yeah, I hear you, Lorraine. We're all saying the same. Yeah, we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah. Other than that, it's speculation. I mean, we could speculate about, so many things, but like Joe said, I mean, I can remember use that were statements far worse. I haven't even been on the board that long, but far worse than this, for Pete's sakes. Scribbled little things, I don't know. Facts, I have to go with the facts.
I agree with you. I think same here. I know I've seen quite a few of these, and I've applied for them, so I get it.
Mhm.
And so I think what he presented and coming back, I think it is adequate what we asked for in October.
In good faith, we have to figure that this is a true situation. Otherwise, speculation is endless.
Let's do a straw poll to see where everyone is. Is that acceptable to you guys?
Yeah, that's good.
Sure.
I'll just run down and tell me where you are. Jim?
I'm really on the fence.
Okay. Tyrese?
I'm a grant.
Lorene?
I'm a Grant.
Joe?
Grant.
And Holly, where are you?
I'm on Grant.
So you heard where you're all at. Someone want to?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to grant to reestablish the use of the property as a 4-family dwelling.
I'll second it.
Jim?
Well, I'm glad we had the straw poll.
Say it again.
I said, I'm glad we had the straw poll. I deny.
Okay. Tyrese?
Grant.
Lorene?
Grant.
Joe?
Grant.
And Holly?
Grant.
So the motion passes 4-1. And that is the last of tonight's cases. This concludes the deliberations for January 21st, 2021 zoning board. Thank you, everyone.
I have a question. Is Chris the same Chris that is on the preservation board?
Yeah, Chris is
Yes, I
still to
am.
the press board.
We know what you look like, Chris.
Yes, now you know what I look like.